Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to John. The sisters of Lazarus went to Jesus saying, "Master, the one you love is ill." When Jesus heard this, he said, "This illness is not to end in death, but is for the glory of God, that the Son of God may be glorified through it." Now, Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. So when he heard that he was ill, he remained for 2 days in the place where he was. Then after this, he said to his disciples, "Let us go back to Judea." When Jesus arrived, he found that Lazarus had already been in the tomb for 4 days. When Martha heard that Jesus was coming, she went to meet him, and Mary sat at home. Martha said to Jesus, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. But even now, I know that whatever you ask of God, God will give you." Jesus said to her, "Your brother will rise." And Martha said, "I know he will rise in the resurrection on the last day." Jesus told her, "I am the resurrection and the life. Whoever believeth in me, even though he dies, will live. And everyone who lives and believes in me will never die. Do you believe this?" She said to him, "Yes, Lord. I have come to believe that you are the Christ, the Son of God, the one who is coming into the world." He became perturbed and deeply troubled and said, "Where have you laid him?" And they said to him, "Sir, come and see." And Jesus wept. So the Jews said, "See how he loved him." But some of them said, "Could not the one who opened the eyes of the blind man have done something so that this man would not have died?" So Jesus, perturbed again, came to the tomb. It was a cave, and a stone lay across it. Jesus said, "Take away the stone." Martha, the dead man's sister, said to him, "Lord, by now there will be a terrible stench. He has been dead for 4 days." Jesus said to her, "Did I not tell you that if you believe, you will see the glory of God?" So they took away the stone. And Jesus raised his eyes and said, "Father, I thank you for hearing me. I know that you always hear me, but because of the crowd here, I have said this, that they may believe that you have sent me." And when he had said this, he cried out in a loud voice, "Lazarus, come out!" The dead man came out, tied hand and foot with burial bands, and his face was wrapped in a cloth. So Jesus said to them, "Untie him, let him go." Now many of the Jews who had come to Mary and seen what he had done, well, they began to believe in him. The Gospel of the Lord. When was the last time you cried? Think for a moment. When was the last time you cried? Huh? We could probably recall a moment in our lives. Maybe it was a death in the family. Maybe it was someone that was sick in our family. Maybe it was when someone that we loved had to go to a nursing home, perhaps. Maybe when it was a joyous occasion. Maybe somebody got married and we were crying out of joy. Maybe it was in the hospital because someone that we loved had just given birth to a new child. And even the baby cried. Yes, even the baby cried. When was the last time we wept? And why is it that it is such a powerful emotion to be able to cry as humans? You know, what are some, we can cry for joy, we can cry for sadness, we can cry out of anger, we can cry, so many different reasons. But usually, what happens when we cry? We try to either comfort or get comfort from someone. If a child is playing and scrapes his knee and runs home to mama, what does the child want? Huh? Some comfort, right? Oh, mommy, I got a little stuff in my finger. Don't cry. Or, there, it's going to be okay. You'll heal. When Jesus cried, people were wondering, why is Jesus crying? Did anyone go to Jesus to comfort him or to say, why are you crying? No, but they speculate. Oh, he must have loved Lazarus. Oh, he must have, But then immediately, instead of just let him cry, comes the little jab. Oh, well, if he gave sight to the blind man, why couldn't he do something for his friend Lazarus? We can often change our tears to sarcasm or to other kind of feelings, hate, anger. We can often have tears that we sometimes call crocodile tears. Have you ever heard of the word crocodile tears? Boo-hoo, right? So they're speculating, why is Jesus crying? What happens in one of the stations of the cross when the women of Jerusalem are crying? What does Jesus say to them? Women, do not cry for me. Cry for yourselves. Cry for your children. Thing is, Jesus wept. And we often know that there's the shortest sentence in the Bible, right? Jesus wept. And a noun and a verb. Jesus wept. But Jesus is kind of reminding Martha and Mary and all the people around him, what is it that you want from me? Why do you always want signs? Why is it that you want this personal Jesus? Yes, he knew Lazarus had been ill for a few days. Yes, he knew that he loved Lazarus and Mary and Martha. But can Jesus be a personal Jesus to anyone? Do you think he finds favoritism or just singles out anyone in particular? He had friends, yes. Lazarus and Martha and Mary were some of his closest friends. But what was Jesus all about? Jesus was there for all of us. When he cries for all of us. For those here, for those out there, homebound. He cries for all of us. That we harden not our hearts. It's so easy to, like Jesus says, to love those that love us. It's harder to feel sympathy for the people that we don't like, the people that we don't care for, the people we can despise or reject. Jesus weeps for all of us, for all of them as well. He tells us to harden not our hearts. We can look, it's how do we view people? He said he'd been busy healing the blind so that they could see. But to see what? To see what? Here we have people looking at Jesus and seeing in him all kinds of different things. Some see him as a healer. Some as a prophet. Some see him as a rebel. Some see him as a heretic. But Jesus sees all the people as God's creation. He sees them all through the lens of God the Creator, God the Father. It is we who sometimes get stuck. It's we who put ourselves in the tomb. And it's hard for us to remove those rocks, to remove all the bindings that bind us in our sinfulness sometimes. It's difficult for us to let go and to come to Jesus. Because it's so much easier to look at people and label them. Jesus was labeled, and we can do that too. We can look at illegal immigrants, for example, and what do we see? Do we see people or do we see criminals? It's so easy to label. It's better to look at a person as criminals, that we don't have to put a face on them. Or we can label people that are, living in sin. Oh, they're sinners, so I don't have to deal with them. We can label people that are different. I don't have to deal with them because, I don't have to really cry for them. I don't have to have sympathy or compassion for them. But God in Jesus has compassion for all of us, cries for all of us. And when he says, Lazarus, come out, it's like telling us, unbind yourselves from all these differences and crazy emotions that separate us, and all these things that can tie us down. Jesus weeps for all of us as we continue our Lenten journey. As we continue to reach out in this world to come to Jesus. We can look at the example of the new people that would be, the catechumens and the elect. They're making the journey. We're making the journey with them. They're learning about Jesus, the love that he offers, the mercy that is being offered to all people. They're learning to come into communion with us because of that reason. But it's up to us, as we listen to Jesus weep, how do we roll away the stone of our hearts and let, the Spirit of Christ be in our hearts? How do we unbind ourselves? And how do we listen to Jesus' command, come out into life? Come out and be whole again. Even Martha didn't think much of, what did she see in Lazarus? It was her brother, but all she saw was a rotting corpse. Oh, Jesus, he's been there for 4 days. He's rotting away. That's all she saw, a rotting body. But Jesus saw Lazarus. He saw his friend. And in his compassion, he renews him.